What are we listening to today?
The Immigrant Project by Girish and Astha.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Immigrant Project. Girish here. Asta is behind the camera, and today we have Jancy Wang with us. Jancy is an immigrant from China. In fact, she came here about 10 years ago, and she's working at uh, uh, finance. She works in the finance department of a consulting firm. Welcome to the show, Jancy.
Yeah, thank you, Gurish and Asa, for inviting me to this episode. I am so excited to share my immigrant story with you guys.
Oh, that's so sweet. So, Jancy, you came here about 10 years ago, 2016. Now, we have had conversations with a lot of folks who recently came to Canada, 2023, 22, 24. I was one of the ones who came in 23. So, I know the situation right now, how the government had opened up the floodgates of immigration. And now we had about 500,000 people come in a year. Population grows by whatever 2.3%.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to ask you, how was it like moving to the country in 2016 where things were relatively more stabilized? There were probably the job to housing market ratio was at least better, and education was probably considered one of the best in the world. I'm not saying it's not at the moment, but probably it was better then. How was it?
Yeah, so when I moved to Canada at the age of 16, I was here by myself. Like all my family are still back in China. Oh, that's just okay. Should I start with the background information? Okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, just a little bit background about me. I was born in Shanghai, China, and I moved to Canada when I was 16. I did my high school here, and then later did my university, and now like working as a full-time consultant in Toronto. I guess to your question, my experience moving to Canada, I guess it was scary.
Mm.
Because I was not 18 yet, so I really had to stay with the homestay, which I guess is required by law. Someone will
Oh,
have to look after you for your meals and your accommodations. So you're not
wow.
allowed to live by yourself and like literally.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how did you find a homestay?
It was all through a Chinese agency that doing like all these study abroad kind of situations. So our family, so my parents found an agency who's responsible for like helping you finding a homestay and accommodations.
Oh.
And so when I arrived in Canada, there's somebody with a flag set my name like Jancy Wang on the flag, and I didn't even know who the person is, and I literally just to walk up to them like, okay, I guess you're
Yeah.
my guardian. So that is how it all started.
Wow, that's new information I've never really heard. So she was 16, she came to the airport, there's someone with a
The
name
flag, yeah.
flyer, Jancy Wang, and then 2 years you were living with them.
Yeah, I had to stay with them for 2 years till I become 18.
So they are like a family setup, is it like
They're a family setup, and big, and one of the like in searching for like a homestay, I guess what we were thinking about doing is we have to find like English speaking family just because it helps you to practice your like my English. So it was also a challenging because I barely speak any English back in China, although like we started learning English since grade 1. But when I moved here, like it's totally different environment because you're hearing all this English, you don't really,
Yeah.
practice that like back home. So when I moved here, I stayed with somebody came from Europe, one of the European countries,
Hmm.
and it was like challenging because I barely understand them for most of the time.
Wow. So you stayed with this European family,
Yeah,
but they're not a Chinese family.
they're
So
not a Chinese
they don't speak
family.
Chinese, they only speak
Yeah,
English.
yeah. So
Wow.
we just have to talk like that was like half gesture, half like you know what I'm saying, and like half like nods. Like that's where all
And
the
then two
conversations
years you
start.
lived like that, and once you're
Yeah,
18, you moved out
I
and
moved out.
found your own apartment.
Yeah,
Wow. And you're still studying in college, I'm assuming. You're
yeah,
still studying in school.
yeah, yeah. So that's how because I came here, did my grade 11 and 12, and while living with a homestay. And when I turned 18, I just moved to started my university, and my university was University of Waterloo, which is another kind of city 2 hours away from Toronto.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I just had to live by myself ever since.
Wow. Did you particularly choose Canada because there was a specific reason, or
Yeah,
You
so
did?
we actually thought about it. My mom had actually a lot of countries laid out in a blank piece of paper. Canada was one of them, but there's like US, Canada. We also thought about like UK, but
Hmm.
just from like a cost perspective, we thought like Canada is the most, I guess, cost efficient. um, and US is not safe relatively to
Yeah.
Canada, and UK is also expensive, so that's why we chose Canada.
Hmm. So the cost to return of investment ratio was higher in Canada, and that's why
Yeah.
you chose to. So were you not scared, or was your mom not scared that Jancy, a 16-year-old, not even an adult, who's moving to a different country?
Yeah, I guess my mom was freaked out. I guess because that was initially my mom's idea of sending me to Canada. But when my mom first raised this idea to the rest of the family, everybody thought my mom was crazy, and they're like, "Oh, you need to go to bed and you need to chill." and but my mom like woke up next day like I think this is the right decision, and I think our daughter deserves the best. And our family is not like the rich people, because like they're just doing like their full-time job, like sending me abroad to study, and the pay, like the international student fee is still a lot for
Yeah.
them. But my mom was like, education is one of the best and one of the best investment that we could ever made on um, in one's life. So
That's a
that's
brilliant answer. Jancy, speaking of investment, you know, as compared to your friends back at home or any other Chinese immigrant who did not move to Canada when they were 16, so they're probably working in Canada. How do you see yourself different in terms of, personal growth, professional growth, if you would have not made the move?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. Like I still, so till today, I still keep in touch with most of my friends back home. And I do realize one difference is when we are in a conversation, and I feel like a lot of when they're thinking about their future, is very like one way focused, and they have like all they think in their head is mostly like, oh, I will do my job and I have to find a husband, I will have daughter, I will have children
Hmm.
before a certain age, and this is where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. But for me, I've just seen so many people's life path, and I've got the opportunity to meet people from like people who are not Chinese, and they live a totally different life than what Chinese people usually do. And that just like brought my horizon in terms of looking at, you don't really need to get married by a certain age, you don't really need to have children by a certain age, there's no that many rules that you have to follow, you can live your life fully without having all these rules restricted.
That's such a beautiful answer. I'm sure our audience would love this. Jancy, I know that you were living in a family setup for the first 2 years, and you attended University of Waterloo. One of the biggest apprehensions we have for our guests, in fact, is they say that there is it's very difficult to come to a foreign country to make friends. How
Mm-hmm.
did you go about making friends when for the first at least 2 years you probably did not venture out as much?
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was definitely very challenging because I I'm always a very extroverted person growing up, and I love talking to people. But by not having that language in my head so that I can speak what I think, it's very challenging. Like I really want to express my opinion, but I don't know how to do so.
Mm.
So, but because I am extroverted, so I don't mind showing up, embarrassing myself, be like,
Hmm.
oh, this is what I think, and I don't know if you guys understand, but like I just try so hard to explain myself, and to a point people start explaining for me, and I see the way that they explain, and I learn from the language that I use, and I learn English from that. So and yeah, and once my English became better, I just show up to different situations, like different settings. Like I do volunteering downtown Toronto. I just try myself to make myself feel included in this community,
Hmm.
and that's how I make my first few friends.
Wow, and that's the beauty of this country, It provides you with so many opportunities to integrate yourself within the system,
Mm-hmm.
within the culture, and give yourself an opportunity to learn the language, learn the culture.
Yeah, and I really appreciate Canada for this. We got like so many citizens and people come from a lot of different places, and you barely can find any really like local Canadians.
Hmm.
People like you guys like from India, and I got people from like Japan, Korea, and it's just so nice that like Canada sort of reunited us all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the stats that I was reading, barely any. I mean, first of all, the original owners of Canada are the indigenous people. So
Yeah.
all of us that we see, apart from indigenous people, are in some shape or form immigrants. Immigrants from France, UK, other places, but we all are immigrants. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of Canada. You know, it's a very, very welcoming country.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the welcoming country also poses certain challenges for all of us. You know, at the moment we are facing certain housing crisis, certain job crisis
Mhm.
issues. So did you in the last about 9, 10 years in Canada face any challenges, and how did you overcome those challenges, if you would want to share any?
Mm,
Could
challenges?
be anything, could be finding jobs, could be integrating within, say, Chinese community within Canada, would
Mm.
be finding your own set of friends, could be anything. Could be challenges at university, education.
Yeah, definitely. I guess you just gave me a hint of about like finding the job. It was so hard. I graduated back in 2023, and that was like right after COVID, and somehow economy turned bad again during the year I graduated, and because and I really appreciate Waterloo for having the co-op program,
Hmm.
which we are required to do 6 internships before we graduate. Otherwise, we're not getting that piece of paper.
Oh, really? So
Yeah,
6 months of co-op
6 internships. So
in
that means 6 times 4, like 24 months of internships in
24.
total.
And your program was for how long?
5 years. Like
Five.
the regular is like 4 years, but because you have all these internships that
Ah.
kind of yeah intersect in between your study terms, and
Hmm.
that's why the program is longer. And so yeah, because I was part of the co-op program, so I always thought like once I graduate, I will 100% find the job. But unfortunately, by the time I graduate, I still don't have a job offer right beside me. And that is when the challenges, and I started questioning myself about all these things that I have decided to do. Like I worked so hard for the past 5 years, and I actually like try to study as hard as I can to get high marks, but by the time I graduate, I still don't have the job offer, and I feel like that was such a failure, honestly. But I didn't really give up. Am still very active on LinkedIn. I'm still very active in like networking, and ultimately, 2 months later, I found a job, and to my surprise, I'm actually the first one in my friend circle find the job in that year that I graduated.
Well, and what set you apart, Jancy? You said that you reached out to a lot of folks on LinkedIn. So you think reaching out to folks on LinkedIn helped, or there's something else that you did that helped you secure a job in 2 months?
I think it's definitely like reaching out to people definitely helps, but also just when you get really frustrated, you have to tell yourself to keep going. I see a lot of my friends when they reach a certain point, they kind of just give up. They're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna
Oh.
do it," and or they would allow or they would give themselves like 2 months break out of nothing. Like, "Oh, I just need to relax. This is too much." But I didn't give myself that, and I just tell myself it's like I am almost there. So always like
Hmm.
see that angle whenever I want to give up. So and yeah, so that just made me find jobs, but it's like quicker and sooner than anybody else.
So you reached out to folks on LinkedIn, and that's how you connected with the HR representatives and you got a job.
Actually, like when I got my first full time offer, it was not through like LinkedIn connection. It was just me like broadly searching and applying on like job sites and just their corporate website,
Oh.
and I just luckily received the interview and just like went down the phases of
Wow.
Yeah, to all the way to the final round.
And imagine your profile being selected, first of all, amongst thousands of people who have submitted the resume. And then, even though you're selected for the interview, you're probably not the only one
Yeah.
who was interviewing. There probably would be hundreds of more. And then, filtering down that, you got the job. So, that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, which is one another thing that I wanted to flag is like us as immigrants somehow like always feel like, oh, we're left out by some means, or like, okay, I'll take a step back. Like to
Hmm.
me, I think because my English is not as perfect as a local Canadian person,
Hmm.
and that always puts me in a position where I think I question myself. Oh, I'm not good enough because my English is not good enough. And why would I get the job out of thousands of other people who
Hmm.
are born as Canadians and their English is their first language? So, and that's when I question myself. And when I get these offers or like get these great opportunities, I question myself like, why? Even at the Toastmaster, when I was picked as the best table topic master, every single time I question myself, why do I deserve this? But I think after a period of time, I kind of reflect on all these great opportunities that I have received. I think it's all came down to be if you are really passionate about the things that you sign up for. It's not about the language. It's not about how fluent you are giving out your answers. It's
Hmm.
about the idea and the person you are, and that's not about the language.
Yeah, I've also realized, Janzi, first of all, I think Canadians in general are extremely or less judgmental than a lot of other counterparts, or I mean, other countries who are native English speakers. So that's something that I really appreciate about this country. And second, I think a lot of people also see the intent. So if Jancy has an intent to work in a company, is she hardworking?
Yeah.
So that's what also a lot of you. So probably that's something that would have worked in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 9 years, Jancy, I'm pretty sure that your parents would miss you back home. How often do you make that trip, and how do you manage the relationship back at home?
Yeah, so I'm actually really good at managing relationships, whether it's like friendship or familyship. I talk to my mom almost 3 times a week at least. I just video call her anytime that I want to. I don't care about
Wow.
what time it is over there. I don't care about what she's doing. I just give her a ring, and if she couldn't pick up, she couldn't pick up. Then I wouldn't blame her for that, and she would do the same for me. So that's why I just feel like very smooth transition. We've always been a part of each other's life, although
Hmm.
we're not there physically.
Hmm.
And with my friends, I also just talk to them on like a daily basis almost. Although our life doesn't really overlap, but it's nice to have somebody there and share your stories with and just show support.
That's really sweet, Jancy. And if given a choice, I know that you said that you are on a work permit status, if I was
Yeah.
not wrong. So it's first of all unfortunate that you have been in the country since 2016 and Canada is not able to provide you with the concrete status to live in the country.
Mhm.
But if given a choice and if you are able to go through the express entry whatever system route process, would you want to continue living in Canada beyond 2026?
That's actually I really appreciate this question because that's what I have been thinking about for the past few months. Given that my work permit is actually expiring in the late 2026, so I barely have almost like about a year and a half left in Canada. Um, and I know with like all the government changing, the policy might change as well. So me staying in Canada will be a question at that point. But I guess if I was given a choice, I would definitely want my permanent resident. But I also don't want to force it because I feel like I've been doing my best since the moment that I landed in Canada and just the amount of my graduation and I secured a good job. And if I don't get to stay in Canada, I feel like that's not a problem because I can always work back home, work with my mom, and I can accumulate my foreign work experience and just come back here if I want to. I just don't feel like life is like one way path. Really, like you
Wow.
can just go to different countries, and I don't even think me getting a permanent resident means like I will really be a permanent resident here. It's just a temporary permit for me to stay till whenever I want to leave. So
Hmm.
even I get the permanent resident card, I don't think I will be a permanent resident. So it's yeah, I don't mind just traveling around the world a little bit before coming back, or even just I stay here. I feel like that would be a great opportunity as well.
So the idea is eventually you would want to go back to China.
I feel like I would want to go back and stay with the family. Um, just if I think about like the long, like really long term plan,
Hmm.
but yeah, and we'll see how we'll see how this goes.
We love your optimism, Jancy, and I'm pretty sure our listeners would love as well. We have time for one last question, and I want to make this very interesting. Now, imagine, not imagine, of course, it's 2025, but imagine there is another Jancy out there, and there are millions of Jancys in China right now who are age 15, 16, 17 years old, and they are probably dreaming about coming to Canada. What
Mm-hmm.
advice would you have for them out there?
If they really want to come to Canada, I would say just go for it. Do whatever you believe is right at the moment, and don't overthink on the decisions that you make, because once you get older, you don't get that courage to come up with the idea of like, hey, I want to go here. Like the opportunity cost for you to make a decision will getting a bit higher and higher as you're getting older. So I would encourage everybody who are thinking about moving to Canada, just do it. And while you still have all that passion and all that, like the young energy, yeah, embrace it and go for the change. And you never know what good opportunities waiting for you down the line.
So people watching from China or rather anywhere in the world, Jancy's story is an inspiration. She came here when she was 16 and now look at her, she's flourishing. She's a consultant. She's in the finance in industry and she's thriving. And she wants to travel the world. So sky's the limit for her.
Yeah, yeah, sky's never the limit.
Thank you so much, Jancy, for being a guest on the show. We really enjoyed the conversation
Yeah,
and we hope you did as well.
yeah, I really appreciate all the questions. I feel like that also is a great opportunity for me to reflect back on my past 10 years of experience in Canada as an immigrant. But I would love to share my stories more and love to talk to you guys and really want to come back for another episode.
Absolutely, we'd love to have you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.